Hello, hello everyone. Hello to those that are watching on LinkedIn. Hello to YouTube. Hello to our Facebook groups. I am really excited for this conversation because we are going to be discussing how do you make the decision between the different law school offers that you have? How do you How do you know which law school you should choose? How do you know which school you should decide on? How do you know what factors to even consider as you're making this choice? Who do you listen to? What do you do with all this information? You've got maybe a month, maybe a couple weeks, depending on when your deposit deadlines are. And I know from talking with my students that some of you are feeling like, I don't know, I'm still considering 10 different schools. I'm not sure what to do. For those of you who are new and don't know me, my name is Sydney Montgomery. I'm the CEO of Montgomery Admissions Consulting, and we specialize in working with first generation and minority law school applicants. I'm really excited because this is actually one of my favorite topics because this is the fun part. You have done the hard work, you applied, you got into some fantastic schools. First off, are you proud of yourself? Because sometimes in all of this confusion and all of this chaos and all of this like indecision, we forget to be proud of ourselves. So I just want you to know like I am so freaking proud of you. Like you have offers, plural. You are making a decision. You are in a great spot. Let's just start there. Let's just start from a place of gratitude, from a place of accomplishment. You have done an amazing, amazing job. But now you're trying to figure out how you can even decide between these schools. And so we're going to talk through a couple of factors today. The first thing we're going to talk about is admitted student events and just talking to students in general, getting to know your future classmates. The second thing we're going to touch on is um, when rankings don't matter at all. Like, and you're like, rankings always matter to me. Okay, sometimes they don't, though. And so we're going to talk about when you should really not care about rankings. And then we're going to talk about making smart financial investments. I know this is something that I keep coming back to because it's so important. So we're going to keep talking about making smart financial investments. Let me know in the comments. Let me know where you're listening from. I love to get to know the different students that are taking advantage and listening to our podcast and to our YouTube. I also want to make sure that I let you guys know that next weekend on March 26th, Saturday, I will be spending my Saturday with you. We are doing one of my favorite things. We are doing our keys to a successful law school application workshop. It is going to be co-hosted with my associate law school consultant Alice Foley. We are going to be bringing you over an hour of really packed information. We're going to be answering all capital underscore bolded all of your questions. And I'm going to be raffling a free hour of consulting to some very lucky person who attends live. So make sure that you come, make sure that you share it with a friend. The link to that event is in the description below, it's in the show notes. But I'm really excited for that. It's just a good way to start off the application season because, March is always very interesting. We're kind of like talking to students that are wrapping up their application cycle, getting ready to start in the fall. We are also, however, talking to students who are just beginning their journey, who are preparing to submit applications in the fall. It's always this overlap that happens. And I feel like I'm like two people. I'm like, okay, here's how you get started. Okay, here's how you end well. But it's a really fun time. I love March. It's the spring. Spring is new beginnings. And so this is one of the really great ways to kick off this and also kick off our boot camps. Our first boot camp starts April 6th. Boot camps are fantastic. They go through the entire law school application cohort with 4 to 5 students. Boot camps are family, right? They're a way for you to bond and be on this journey with other people who are supporting you and holding you accountable. They are capped at a maximum of 5 students so that we can give you really personal, individualized attention. They're not lectures. We're not lecturing you. They're working sessions. So, am pretty sure that after next weekend, our April 6th boot camp will be completely sold out. We already have about 2 or 3 people who are interested, and they cap at 5. But we will be holding another boot camp session. Boot camps are 12 weeks. We'll have one that starts April 6th. We'll have one that starts at the end of April, one that starts in May, one that starts in June, and so forth. But be on the lookout for that as well. But today, how do you go about thinking about the decision that you need to make with your law school offers? What do you do? How can you evaluate these? What are the factors that you should be thinking of? Of course, in admissions, there's no black and white, but I want to kind of give you some guidance here. So that first point that we're going to talk about, we are going to talk about admitted student days and admitted students events, and what you should be thinking of when it comes to that. So first off, just doing a quick check, making sure that all of you can hear me and see me okay. Let me know in the comments if you can. I think that admitted students days and admitted students events, and I understand that not everyone can travel, right? Because they can be kind of expensive, but they're so valuable. And I want to just kind of give you a story from my own experience, which seems like it was forever ago at this point. But I was a senior in college, and my parents, they couldn't afford to help me with the law school application process, or certainly not with admitted students days. And I always tell you guys, ask not, receive not. But I knew for me it was really important. I was looking for a few things. Now I was 20, so not all the things that I was looking for are necessarily what you should have been looking for. But in my mind, I had my priorities. I was like, okay, the Black community has to be lit. That was priority number 1 for me. I'm not going to say that was a bad priority number 1. It was very important. I loved my Harvard Balsa family. I loved my time in Harvard Balsa. Like, I really loved my time in Harvard Balsa. Some of those people are some of my closest friends now. I'm going to their weddings. Some of them are my attorneys. I would be nothing without my Harvard Black Law Student Association family. And so for me, at 20, I knew that it was really important that I find a Black Law Student Association family that I would love, because they would help me on this very difficult journey to law school. So that was number 1, priority 1. But priority 2 is that I was going to go to a place that was collaborative and not competitive. And some of you are probably now like, but you went to Harvard Law School. Actually, it was really collaborative and not really competitive. That's probably because HLS doesn't have grades. Shout out to HLS. I at least didn't feel the competition. And I think from talking to my friends who went to other schools that did have grades, I think we did just generally have less competition than schools that do have a traditional grading system. There are only a handful of law schools in the country that don't have grades. I mean, I guess, we had letters, H, P, LP, but honestly, we didn't really have grades. And that was really important to me. I wanted to go to a school where I felt like I wouldn't just like the Black students. Caveat to my point number 1, right? I've always been a person that's had a very diverse set of friends. I like to meet people from different walks of life, and I wanted to go to a school where I felt like there was true integration, where I wanted a really strong Black community, but I also wanted to be able to have friends that weren't Black, and I wanted to feel welcomed and included and not ostracized. That was really important to my overall growth and development. Of course, for me, I was very interested in child advocacy and family law, and so having opportunities in that space, strong opportunities to clinic was important. But I was looking for a place that felt like home. And that's sometimes an intangible feeling, right? I was looking for friends. I was very big on my lists. I want friends in law school. That was me. I was the poster child. I was like, I'm going to law school to make friends. That's where I'm going. And to be a lawyer, but I wanted friends. And maybe you're like, I don't need no new friends, right? No new friends. I have friends. That's okay. These don't have to be your priorities. But these were kind of the things that I was thinking of. I was looking for the intangibles. And I think sometimes when we are thinking about how to choose a law school, we are only looking at the clinics. Maybe we're only looking at the professors. We're only looking at the courses. And those things are important. They're super important. But a couple things that I've learned. 1, there's really no guarantee that you'll get the top professor or the super awesome man or woman that you're really excited to work with. I will tell you that unfortunately, a lot of the Black professors at Harvard, their classes were always full, which was unfortunate. Um, and so I took fantastic courses with Professor Stephanie Robinson. I got to know Okediji well, but not in class. Professor Amuna well, but not in class. But my ability to take classes with those leading Black scholars was not as easy as I thought it would be. And so, if you're basing an entire school decision off of this one professor you really want to get to know, I want you to be open to the possibility that you may not get to know them, even if you go to that school. Of course, some of this depends on the size of the school, but that's just really something to keep in mind. Um, when you forget the fact that you are going to be living somewhere for 3 years, you forget all of the things that come with law school. Law school is so much more than I go to class, I go home, right? If you take law school and you're like, I'm going to go to class and go home, you're missing out on so much. You're missing out on the networking. Some of your classmates will become senators or congressmen. Some of them will be just really cool people doing really great transformative work. Some of these people will be arguing in front of the Supreme Court. I mean, you're going to law school. People usually don't just go to law school and then like do nothing, right? I think no matter what school you go to, whether it's a T14 or whether it's ranked 120, right? There's going to be someone in your class that is going to be inspirational. There's going to be someone that can help you on your journey. And if you don't take the time to network, you will miss that opportunity. So that's why it's also important to figure out what is the community at the law school that I'm going to. So for me, I really wanted to go to these students events. And again, I didn't have any money. So what did I do? So I just asked, right? I remember Berkeley, which shout out to Berkeley, fantastic school. Shout out to the dean for this story I'm about to tell, right? I remember I wanted to go see Berkeley. I'd never been to California before. Spoiler alert, I didn't go to Berkeley. I realized California was very far. But I had never been to California. East Coast girl, born and raised. And I was like, well, I can't make a decision to go to Berkeley if I've never seen it. Like what I can't go to Berkeley and like I just couldn't do it. So they had a travel stipend for lower income students, but it wasn't all of it. And like again, I had no dollars. So I sent a very lovely email to the dean of admissions, and I was like, "Thank you so much for this offer. I'm really considering Berkeley. I mean, it was like my top three, right? Like it was in my top three. It was the only school on the West Coast in my top three. I'm really considering Berkeley. I think it would be a really good fit for me, but I don't feel comfortable making that decision without seeing it." She paid for my flight. No, don't all of you go run to the Berkeley dean and be like, I heard. Like, okay, no, I don't know all of the decisions that went into that. So I'm not saying she's just gonna be out here like writing checks. But I am very grateful for her generosity, right? They paid for my flight. I'm very grateful for Balsa. They found me, I stayed with a Balsa student from like Wednesday through Saturday. Like it was a very long admitted students weekend also. But I was there for like 4 days, and it was really eye opening and really helpful. I didn't ultimately choose Berkeley, but it was really helpful in kind of seeing what it was that I was looking for in a law school and the field. And there's so much that I wouldn't have been able to understand or to comprehend in my choice if I hadn't been able to go in person. I will tell you a different story, and I will not name the school that the story is about, but a different school, unnamed. I went and I was very excited about going. I probably visited about 4 or 5 schools, right? I took my list. I got into 12 schools. And I took my list and I decided kind of if I wanted a bigger school or a smaller school. That was my first kind of inflection point. And there's a lot to be said, good things about small schools and big schools. I was 20, so I was like also like, well, there's only 17 Black students and probably half of those are girls. My chances of finding a husband very small. Um, Please do not go to law school trying to find a husband, but I did. Shout out to my very loving boyfriend of almost 4 years, who I did meet. I did meet in Cambridge, not at the law school, but we did meet at the Black Student Ministries. So shout out to Harvard Black Student Ministries. Shout out to the greater Black graduate community there in Cambridge. But I was very concerned about going to a school that only had 15 or 17 Black students per class. I'm just going to be very honest and real with you guys. That felt super uncomfortable. Like, I now know you guys too much, and what if I don't like you? And so this was a situation that I had. I went to an unnamed law school, and there were only 12 Black students per class, which I mean, out of the whole school, I had never experienced that. I mean, even Princeton, we had, the percentages might be small, but when it's 8% of 5,000 students, right? Okay, great. When it's 8% of, 400 students, it feels very different. It just feels very different. So there are only 12 Black students per class. And I know because I remember we went to lunch and they had a really big table, and it was like all the Black students from the school. We like fit on one really big table, and that was very overwhelming for me. I just had never experienced that before. And of course, there's the new students, right? So there's the 1Ls, the 2Ls, the 3Ls, and then like the incoming students. And I didn't get along with most of the first or second year students. The third year students were cool. They were very dope. But the first and second year students, honestly, I just didn't get along with a lot of them. I didn't like them. And it was, it was another weekend that was pretty long, about 3 days or so. And so I spent a lot of time with them because it was like, I stayed at Black Law Students Associations no matter where I went. When I went to see Columbia and Harvard and NYU, like it was usually the balsas that kind of helped me and gave me some housing, slept on a lot of air mattresses. But so I had spent a lot of time with these people and had like solidly come to the decision that these were not my people. I didn't also feel like they liked me. I mean, it was very uncomfortable. And I realized that like these are actually the people that would be here at school with me next year. Like, yeah, we'll have my new class, like other 10 of us, right? But these first year and second year students will be the 2Ls and 3Ls, and like I don't like this. I don't want to be here. I didn't like anything about the environment. I didn't like anything about these students, and I couldn't imagine going to a law school where I didn't like any of the other Black students. Like it was just inconceivable to me. And honestly, that was a school that was really high up on my list, and it came off the list completely. I never would have known that without visiting. Now you're like, okay, Sydney, you've sufficiently convinced me that visiting is very important, but I can't visit all my schools. What do I do? Well, you can have informational conversations with students, and maybe it's not the BALSA for you. Maybe it's the Women's Law Association. Maybe it's a student group that has resources for students that have kids or families or spouses. Maybe it's a military veterans group. Maybe it's La Alianza. Maybe it's an LGBTQ plus. Whatever it is that you feel like you want in your communities, and it could be multiple, right? Um, the Women's Law Association at Harvard is very large. So I mean, I didn't, I have a fantastic big sister from that program and a little sister. But I was mostly focused on balsa for my own self, but you might have multiple identities or different identities. And so I want you to think about what are the communities that will support me when I am feeling overwhelmed, because you will feel overwhelmed at some point in your law school career. It's just inevitable. And you are going to want those people that are ride or dies. I mean, I have lupus. I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It's a connective tissue disease. I did not know that when I went to law school, but I started having a lot of health issues my first year. And I will never forget, I took my first semester law school exams like from my bed. I like the hospital sent me home like without crutches. So like I had a Swiffer as a cane, and I had fantastic section mates. Most of them were in Balsa. And they printed out all of my outlines for me, and they brought them to me because we had 8-hour take-home exams, and they printed out all the materials that I needed. And every time I had to miss class for a doctor's appointment, like they brought notes to me. You need people to help you succeed in law school. And right now, as you are deciding between the different schools that you're thinking of, as you are looking at scholarships and financial aid, and we're going to get to all of those things, as you're looking at all of these offers, I want you to also think about the people. Have conversations. See if you can attend by Zoom a Balsa meeting or a La Alianza meeting. See if you can meet up for a virtual coffee with a couple people. If you're not going to get to go in person, try to talk to at least 2 or 3 people from whatever communities you think are going to be important on your journey. Because you cannot do law school alone. No one really succeeds alone. You can't be a lawyer alone either. Lawyering, the legal professional, it's a lot about networking. You just get everywhere with your network. It's why we stress so much having mentors and connecting people and community here. But you need that, and you want to figure out, where am I going to thrive? Because the other thing is, the school could have the most fantastic programs, it could have the best professors. But if you are miserable, you are not going to come out a better attorney. You are not going to thrive. And the school could be a little lower ranked, maybe, but if it's a school that's going to really develop you, to support you, to encourage your growth, to help you get those summer associate positions, to help you get that job after graduation, to build you up, to make you confident, you're going to be a better attorney. Right? So you need to look at this holistically, and now look inward to yourself. We've done a lot of external research. We've done all those things, but now I want you to think about you. What do you need to be the best version of yourself? I grew a lot. Granted, everyone grows a lot between 21 and 24. But I grew a lot. I was pushed a lot by my peers. Only about 20% of students go straight through, and so most of my peers were older than me. And I was presented with so many things in those 3 years that really shaped how I view things. I came out a different person. I think a better person. But I came out a different person, right? And you want to know, what kind of person are you going to come out on the other side? How is the school going to be part of your transformational journey? Who are the people? What are the communities that are going to become not just your lifelong friends, but your lifelong influences, right? Who are the mentors that you are going to connect with? There are so many important things that go into this decision, but hear me. If you hear nothing else, do not overlook the people and the communities. Get to know the school, get to know the vibe. Is it friendly? Is it cold? Is it cutthroat? Is it warm and cuddly? Okay, I don't know that any law school is really warm and cuddly. Some of them are probably warmer than others, though, but really get to know the vibe. Now, that second point that we're talking about today is, when do rankings not matter at all, right? And again, some of you are probably like, they always matter. But there are times when rankings don't matter. I was talking with a student, and she was kind of between these 2 schools, and one was ranked 14 and one was ranked 16, or 13 and 15, or 12 and 10, or 17 and 15. I'm not going to tell you exactly which ones. But she was between 2 schools that were very close in rankings, and concerned, right? Like, oh, but this one is like a couple points higher in the rankings. Listen, a couple points higher in the rankings is not really going to change your life. If you are talking about a school that is ranked 100 and a school that is ranked 12, yes, there is kind of a difference there, right? It doesn't always mean you pick the school that's ranked 12. Like, there are definitely reasons why you might pick the school that's ranked 100. I have a really great video on cost versus prestige. That's important, right? But if you are talking about schools that are, both within the T25, honestly, for the most part, it is a negligible decision. There are some outliers, right? If you're talking about a school that's 25 and you're talking about a school that's 2 or 3, okay. Well, let's discuss. Again, not a slam dunk, worth a discussion. But if they're like 14 and 16, or 12 and 14, or 15 and 17, like, if they're like that, then that doesn't need to factor into your decision right now. Both of those schools will offer you tremendous, tremendous, tremendous opportunities. And if one of those schools is a better fit for you, if one of those schools is going to make you a better attorney, because I have seen where students have gone to schools that are not good fits, and their 1L year, it's just not good. And it's hard, right? And like, for those 2 extra points in rankings, it's not going to make a difference. So if you're someone who really likes school B, but they're 2 or 3 points lower than school A, And honestly, if school B, that's 2 or 3 points lower, is also giving you a lot more money, that might be the better decision, because you are not just the product of, oh, this is the school and this is what it's ranked. My theme for you today is that you are really a product of how you thrive at that school that is ranked that, right? Did you take advantage of the resources? Were you able to fully avail yourself of all of that school offered? Did you thrive and find your people and find your fits? I do college admissions as well, and in college admissions world, it's all about fit, right? And we don't really talk about fit as much in law school admissions. There are some reasons, but this is one of those things, especially if you're looking at two schools that are pretty close together in rankings. That's one of those times that I'm like, hey, what's a good fit for you? Like, what would make you be the best attorney that you can be? So I want you to kind of think about that. Like I said, if they're very far apart in rankings, I think that's something to consider, but rankings is not everything. And then that last piece that I want to talk to you about is making a good financial investment. And I started to touch on this a little bit when I said, if the school that is only slightly lower ranked is offering you a lot more money, then I want you to think about your long-term financial future. What does that mean and why? Right? So it does not make sense, really, to pay double the price for a school that is only maybe 2 spots higher in rankings. I don't think that's like a smart financial decision unless you're not concerned about finances, right? If you have to just look at yourself personally and say, okay, listen, I'm big ballin'. I've got money. My parents are paying. My parents will bankroll. My grandparents will bankroll. I worked really hard. I have $200,000 in the bank. I can go wherever. This is like, okay, then you listen, you do you, boo, right? You do you. That was not my situation. I still have student loans from Harvard. I don't regret it, right? But you want to make a smart financial decision. There are times when ranking does mean you will be taking less money. I mean, I think that's just in general, right? Like, if you're well above the medians, probably at a lower ranked school, you're going to get way more money than a higher ranked school. There are some things that are never going to happen, right? You're never going to get a full ride scholarship to Harvard Law School. That's not a thing. That doesn't exist. You will have to take out some loans to go to Harvard. You just will. Now, if you work in a job, a legal job, a nonprofit job, a government job with a certain income afterwards, they will help cover your loans through the loan repayment assistance program. If you work in big law, you'll probably pay off your loans in about 3 to 4 years. So it's, but like you will be taking out loans. Their max financial aid offer comes with a base loan amount. You will be taking out loans. So if you're trying to say, well, I have this full ride offer from this school and, Harvard's not giving me a full ride. Harvard's not going to give you a full ride. But, there may be other reasons why Harvard is a better option. Or maybe it's not. You really have to make that personal decision. But you don't want to make a decision to go to a school and pay double the price if there's not a substantially better network, a substantially better opportunity for you to advance in your career from taking the higher price school. If you are going to take out more than $50,000 more than the other school, it should give you $50,000 more in median starting salary or in opportunities, right? This whole thing is a little bit about return on investment. And so that's really important, right? If one school is giving you, and it's not even just what they're giving you, I've told you about this several times, like they could be giving you $30,000, but the total cost of attendance is way more than the second option, right? It's not about like they gave me 30 and they gave me 40. It's like, what am I paying, right? If the amount of money that you're paying to go to school B, which is slightly lower ranked, is about 20,000, and the amount of money that you're paying to go to school A, which is only slightly better ranked, is $60,000 a year, right? We have a $40,000 a year difference. That's $120,000 over 3 years. I better see you explain to me why school A is $120,000 more suited to set you up as an attorney than school B. Like, show me the $40,000 per year investment or increase in your starting salary or in your opportunities in your network in the programs and the experience that you're going to gain. Like that's the number, right? I'm putting a price tag on it. If you're saying its school is better ranked, so I'm going to go there, and it's $40,000 per year more, that's fine, as long as you can tell me that your career is going to be different in $40,000 per year, $120,000 difference. Most people cannot say that. It's just the thought that it might be more prestigious. But I want you to be really careful and really look, okay, what kinds of firms do people go to from this school? What kinds of firms do people go to that school? The median starting salaries for these schools, they're posted. I think they're still posted on Law School Transparency. LSAC acquired Law School Transparency. They're kind of rolling out some more pre-law things, which is cool. But you can look and find the median starting salary for these schools, and then you will be able to answer my question. Oh, well, yeah, the median starting salary for this school is only 60,000. The median starting salary for this school is 200,000. So yeah, I'm gonna spend 40 extra K per year, but that's totally worth it in terms of my starting salary. Boom, great argument. You guys are preparing to be lawyers. This is your first try, right? But if you can't, if they both seem to send people to the same kinds of jobs, if they both seem to send people to the same kinds of firms, if they have similar employment scores, if they have similar bar passage rates, if all else is being, equal and it's just 2 extra points on the rankings, then no, do not take out an extra $120,000 of debt. That doesn't make sense, right? So I want you guys to all be thinking strategically about the financial decisions that you're making as well. So that first part was to really look at community. Who are the people that you're surrounding yourself with? Are you going to be in a place where you're going to thrive? Will you have a good mentoring network? Do they have good career services? Because a great school with terrible career services is not a great school, right? So what are the resources in place? If you're a student with disabilities, have you talked to the Office of Disability Support? If you're a student that has a family, have you figured out what kind of spousal support there is, or child support? There are so many things. Like, do you know where you're going to live? What's the cost of living like at these different schools? Because that can change the financial picture as well. Do you think that you're going to be happy? Because I am on the team of your happiness. And I feel like in this process, happiness is the last thing people are thinking about. But your happiness and your mental health are so important. There is nothing that is worth your mental health. There is nothing that is worth you being miserable for 3 years. It's just, there's nothing that's worth that. So, I want you to really focus on those things. And then second, I want you to ask yourself, am I getting caught up in the rankings hype? Like, am I just drinking the ranking Kool-Aid? Because newsflash, rankings change all the time. The T14 is about to change, right? The U.S. News and World Report methodology changes all the time. So don't get upset if you make a decision based on what the rankings are today. And then, next week or so ever, the rankings change and you're going to be really upset. You'd be like, but that school was, and now it's here. But I thought I made this. Listen, rankings are important to a degree, but they will always change. The top 10 today is not the top 10 when I applied to school. You may be shocked by that, right? It will not be the top 10 probably in 10 years. Now, some schools will probably still be there, right? But some schools will not be. Some schools are not in the T14 this year that have always been. Things happen. So ask yourselves, is ranking, playing too big a role in my decision? It's important, but you need to make sure that it's measured because those things change. And then the third thing I want you to do is make sure that you're making a smart financial decision, right? That when you're making these choices in schools, that there is a return on investment that you're looking for in terms of your career. It's professional school. It's to prepare you for a career, for a profession. I want you to be asking critical questions about, median salaries. That's really important. We have a question that just came in. I think it's a really good question. Do you ever wish you had gone to law school later? I'm 24 and I want to defer my admission for 1 year. but I'm worried it will be weird to be older at my school. Okay, so first off, being 25 in law school, you will be just fine. You will not be older. You will be totally fine. Um, I I personally I personally don't regret going to law school as young as I did. Um, I also believe that God has like really divine timing, and I wouldn't have met my boyfriend, right? And I'm really excited because we've been long distance for 4 years. It's been long 4 years, guys. But I'm moving up to New Jersey at the end of the summer, and so we will be long distance no longer. He's a PhD student in the molecular biology department at Princeton. I'm very proud of him. Um, but I was meant to go to law school when I went, right? We got to start a church. We church planted. I met amazing friends. Um, my section mates. I mean, I was meant to go to law school then, right? Um, I think that there was nothing else that I really wanted to do before going to law school. And truthfully, I mean, this is where I ended up, right? I'm not even practicing lawfully right now. So, I don't think that waiting would have changed anything for the better, knowing what I know now and where my life path is. I am really glad that I'm 28, right? And I have all of this experience, and I feel really good about my career where I'm at right now. So I don't think that I would have wanted to go later, but it's not because I was afraid of being older. So I think most of my class, like most of my section, was between 24 and 26. I think you'll find that at most law schools. Most students wait about 2 years is about average to go to law school. I think the pandemic has probably shifted some of that, but it's totally fine if you want to go straight through. But I felt a little too young, like sometimes when I was there. Like I found my people, but I will say it did take me a little bit to find my people just because, I was young. I was really young. And I think I went in still with this like undergrad mentality. And I had to like get out of that real quick. Um, but I loved that experience. But I think being 24, being 25, you will fit right in. Like everyone will be your people. I was learning a lot of life skills too, right? Like I had to learn how to like go to bars and like order drinks, and like there was like I just turned 21, so there was like a lot of life to learn, like how to have an apartment, how to walk in the city, how to just a lot of things. I'm a suburb girl. But no, I think you'll be totally fine going to law school at 25. You'll be totally fine going to law school at 35. All right. There are people in my section who were 40. There were lots of people with kids. I would say that you're never too old to go to law school. But I think most students are kind of between 24 and 30 ish when they start law school. Now as a woman, I would say that, when you think for myself, I was thinking about also like marriage and kids at some point, and what that would look like for my legal career. And I know that's a consideration that a lot of people are making. I work with a lot of moms. I work with a lot of single moms. I work with a lot of married moms. So there is a lot to be said for the consideration of family planning and law school. And, that's something we can talk about more. But, you go when you're ready. And if you're not feeling ready, if you want to defer, you will be so much happier for that. There's no point in rushing it just for some arbitrary age or to check it off and say I graduated law school at a certain point. It's not worth it. Hopefully that answers your question. Are there any other questions before we... Oh, there we go. Does where you want to practice matter? I got into my top choice school on the West Coast, but I'm afraid it will not have the resources to take the bar specifically for New York at my school. So some of that does depend on the ranking, actually. So we usually say that kind of the top 30 schools are more like national law schools, and that you can go to any school and go to any state afterwards. The job fairs usually have people that come from all over the country. The schools themselves usually teach more federal law. You'll have a lot of classmates who are taking different kinds of bars. I mean, people at Harvard were taking every kind of bar. And so you'll have support there. If you're going to go to kind of a lower ranked law school in California, they're mostly going to teach California law. You might not have a lot of New York employers coming as much, or you might not have as many classmates who are going to New York. And so that is something to take into consideration. But if you're looking at a higher ranked law school, I think you said you were looking at UCLA. I think I remember that. Like so a school like UCLA to New York, not a problem. I wouldn't be concerned about that. You will not be the first, you will not be the last, you will not be the only. Another thing that you can do is there is data. Like I said, it used to be on Law School Transparency. I think those are still up. You can kind of see where that school has graduates, like in what states did those graduates go to. So you can kind of see, okay, they sent 20 kids to New York, 40 kids to New York, whatever it is, right? I think that's really helpful information. And then sometimes schools, they have like student orgs for those. Like, I don't know. I mean, I think it's just something about Texas, but like there was a big Texas club at HLS. There was no Maryland club, but there was a big Texas club. But they helped each other, right? Like all those people, they wanted to go to Texas, they left Texas. But I would say like get in touch with student groups. There will be a lot of people from UCLA going to New York. There will be firms that will be courting you still. Or firms that have California offices and New York offices. So I don't think that's something that you should be concerned about because it's a pretty big school, a highly ranked school. It's a national law school. You will be able to make that transition. Now, if you were to tell me that you really wanted to go to Iowa, like probably like still because of its rankings and its size and it's not, like you could do that for sure, but that would be a little bit harder. But New York's a big market, right? DC is a big market. Atlanta is a big market. Texas as a country, it's large, and California. So usually, if you're above the T30, even T35, and those are the cities that you're targeting, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. But you can ask career services, and you can, when you're making these decisions, we're talking a lot about how do you make decisions about your best law school offer. I want to empower you to ask every question that will make you feel confident about your decision and talk to everyone that you need to do that, right? So if that's a question that you have, call career services up. Listen, they're not going to take your offer letter from you. You're in. Okay? So now you are in the driver's seat. And now we can start having real conversations. Hello. I am deciding between UCLA and another school. I would really love to know about the support you give to students who are looking to move to New York after law school. I'd love to talk to someone who's done that. Or, can you talk to me about East Coast employers at our job fairs? Like, ask the questions, right? You are your best advocate. You can only make as good a decision as you have information. And I think some of you are afraid to get information. Because you're like, oh my God, I can't ask them these questions. I can't talk to them. Yes, you can. This is about to be your school, maybe. You're about to pay them tens and thousands of dollars. You deserve to ask all the questions you want to ask or need to ask respectfully, politely, not obnoxiously. But you can ask questions and be more informed. I want you to feel confident making this decision. And the more information you have, whether it's talking to admitted students, talking to current students, talking to different departments. Like I mentioned, the Office of Disability Services, if you're like, oh, but I don't know how ask them, right? Ask all the questions, all the things that you're wondering, the answer exists. And if you start from the place that the answer to my question exists, I just need to figure out where to get the answer to my question, then you will feel so much more empowered. Hopefully that was helpful. Any other questions that you guys have about making decisions, about information to make the decisions, timeline for making the decisions? I know we still are going to talk about deposits. I haven't forgotten my people on the wait list. We are also going to talk about that in future episodes. Do not worry. I am with you through this process. I'm with you. Just another reminder that next weekend we are doing our free workshop, 100% free, 2 p.m. Eastern on Saturday, Keys to a Successful Law School Application. We are raffling off a free hour of consulting to those who attend live. The link is below and in the show notes. We have another question. How often do schools readmit admitted students? My top choice schools did not give me a lot of money, and I'm wondering if reapplying makes sense to try to get more. I wouldn't retake the LSAT though. I wouldn't advise that. Not only would you have to actually change your actual application, but they will want to know why you didn't come. And the answer can't simply be, maybe you didn't give me enough money. I mean, I think it's very risky. It's just not something I advise. I think it's much more worth your time to just have real and open conversations with the schools about your financial situation, talk to financial aid, to try to get outside scholarships. I have a list on my website. I have a video on finding outside scholarships to law school. But here's the thing, you could reapply and you could still get the same amount of money. Or not. You could get less. You could get less. Right. Like there's like possibilities here. You could not get in, right? There's possibilities here. Like they do care about yield protection. I wouldn't just reapply just to get more money. I would definitely have conversations with them and try to make the most, prudent decision. And also be a little realistic. If you're not going to retake your LSAT exam, scholarship money is usually tried to get, higher merit students in the door. So if you're not going to retake your LSAT exam, then very little is changing in your application to warrant like a substantial increase in your scholarship money, which would make sense and warrant you taking another year just to reapply. Of course, there are no absolutes in admissions. I don't know everything. I haven't, I don't know all of the particulars, but that strategy doesn't sound particularly sound. I mean, as an attorney, I like to mitigate risks, and that one sounds very risky. Oh, you're so welcome. You said, thank you so much. I'm first gen LGBTQ applicant of color. All of this info helps a lot. I would recommend applying to outside scholarships, right? There are definitely outside scholarships outside of what the school is giving for first gen students, students of color, LGBTQ students, right? So try to do that. Don't only rely on what the school is giving you. Unfortunately, law school is not always fully funded. But I would say that there are other ways to kind of bridge some of those gaps. And if you haven't already, having some really open, honest conversations with financial aid, with admissions, it's not an adversarial process. It's not, it's a relationship building process. It's a process that, sorry, my phone just rang in the middle, but this is a relationship building process, right? This is a relational process in which I want you to treat them as people and they will treat you as people. And that's the most important thing when you're talking about scholarship negotiations or even just like, hey, I just can't afford to come with this kind of money. And if you have those real conversations, and if at the end of the day you really cannot afford to go, and you do end up reapplying, then that's the story that you will have to tell. But you will have to explain to the schools why you are reapplying. So hopefully that did help. Okay, it is 12:53. You guys have been so great. I'm going to close this out, but like I said, we are having that free workshop next Saturday. Link is below. We are raffling off a free hour. Our boot camp start April 6th. And I'm just excited to get to know you and to meet you more. Dear Heavenly Father, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for offers. Thank you for options. Thank you for open doors. What we're praying for today most is clarity. There are so many people that are confused. They are stressed. They are feeling overwhelmed. They're feeling decision fatigue. They're feeling indecisive. They're feeling like they have no idea how to make this decision. They might be concerned that they will make the wrong decision. They might be concerned that they're going to somehow mess this up. They might be just listening to so many voices and they're not even sure where to get their source of truth from. So first off, I thank you for being our source of truth. I thank you for always giving us the answers. We already have the answers. You have already told us. Dear Heavenly Father, you already know where we're going to law school. You know where we are stepping foot in the fall. Maybe we don't know it yet. Maybe it's information we haven't received yet. There might be a school that's going to come off the wait list. There might be information we're going to get in the next 2 weeks. And I'm reminded of your scripture that says, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. But to focus on today, you also said in Philippians 4:6 to be anxious in nothing, but everything go to you with prayer and thanksgiving, and you will provide our needs. So, dear Heavenly Father, I'm asking that you would remind us not to be anxious in this moment. Sometimes we want more information than we need, but to trust that you have given us all the information that we need right now, that if we do not have the information yet, it's because you are operating in divine timing, that you will always be a guiding path, a lamp unto our feet, that you will provide clarity, crystal clear vision. I'm asking for 2020 vision on our law school careers. Dear Heavenly Father, I'm asking for you to just illuminate the path for you to be an admitted student stay that takes a school out of the running, or be a connection that makes us feel like this place is home. I'm asking you to send funds and provision for admitted student stays. I'm asking you to be Zoom events. I'm asking you to be just an angel of generosity, and the people who we want to talk with, that they will be generous with their time and their information, that you will give us the confidence to reach out, to ask questions, to get the answers that we need to make the most informed decisions. Dear Heavenly Father, I am praying for all of those who are still on the wait list. At many schools, I'm praying for those who may be feeling despair, who might be feeling dejected. I'm asking that you would remind them that you work in perfect timing. And that while it might seem like one door is closing, you are setting us up for a blessing even greater than we can imagine. I want to say a special prayer for those that are in Ukraine and Belarus and Russia and Eastern Europe, Europe in general, and for those who are here in the States who have family there or who have extended family there, who are affected by the war that is going on, and all of the atrocities that are happening. Dear Heavenly Father, I just ask that you would move in this space, that you would just be with them, that you would be with all the mothers who are sending their children across the border, all the students who are still trying to figure out their next steps, even amidst turmoil and chaos, all the men who are staying to fight, that you would just send your angel of protection over them. For citizens affected in all countries, because we don't always, or we never really have as much control over the leadership of our countries as we would like, that you would just be in the midst of the situation. Dear Heavenly Father, I actually take this time to make a special prayer. There's a prayer request for my niece, my stepsister's daughter, who is in the ICU. I ask that you would pray for Callie. She's 5. She is in critical condition. There was an issue with her liver, and now there might be an issue with her bone marrow. But dear Heavenly Father, I know that you have taken her out of the ICU once, and you can do it again. So just asking that you would just send your guardian angel to the Orlando hospital that she's at, that you would be with the doctors and the nurses, that though they may not know what's going on, that you would also bring clarity to that situation. I know that you have great things in store for her and for her family, that she is an angel that is sent here to earth, and that you have perfect plan. And while we don't know what your plan is, I ask that you would just be with them, be with Angela and Callie and Kristen and my father, and all those that are down there, and Felicia, and that you would just pray for the family, and that you would get her out of this critical condition, that you would restore her body and her health out of the ICU, so that she can go back to kindergarten and go back to all the things that a 5-year-old should be focused on, which is not very much playing and having fun and not being in the hospital. Dear Heavenly Father, I ask a prayer over all of those who are dealing with health issues while they are pursuing their law school career, while they are being attorneys, all of those who are starting their own firms. I have many friends who are in the thick of that you would be with them in this moment and give them clarity as well. I thank you for this journey. I thank you for the connections, for the networks, for the greater just community that you have brought together here, that we are all in different places sometimes, but we are all with one goal and one accord, and that we're all helping each other succeed and break down barriers as first-gen students, as students of color, as students of marginalized groups, that we are working toward dismantling systems and structures and increasing representation so that we can make change and impact in the communities that we have. I ask all this in your Son Jesus' name, and thank you for your continued blessings. Amen. So guys, thank you so much. I have really enjoyed being here with you today. I am excited for you. Let me know. send me an email, hello@smontgomeryconsulting.com. Let me be part of your journey. I love hearing from you guys and where you guys have decided to go to law school. You have such an amazing career ahead of you. As always, if this was helpful to you, make sure that you share this video, this podcast with a friend. Make sure you subscribe and like, rate and review, and I will see you guys next week.